Hi, so in the next week or two, I fully expect the process of just demonstrating how weak the United Kingdom has become to be very evident, if it wasn't already. There was a phrase used by a senior politician, someone called Vince Cable, who is the leader of a UK political party called the Liberal Democrats, describing Brexit as being voted for by people nostalgic for a time when passports were blue, faces were white, and the map was pink. Referring, of course, to the old British Empire, which has long since died out. And this plays very much into it. We had an attack recently on an ex-Russian spy. He passed on secrets, Russian state secrets, to the United Kingdom, basically telling our government who the Russian spies were operating in London. And as part of a spy swap, we sent over some Russian spies that had been caught in this country, and they sent us some of their convicted traitors as well. And he's been living in this country ever since. And he was attacked with a nerve agent, which not only has put him in a life-threatening condition, it's put his daughter in a life-threatening condition. She is someone who still lives in Russia. She did move to this country, didn't like it, missed Mother Russia, went back there. So, perfectly loyal Russian citizen. She's been placed at death's door as well, as has a British police officer who came to their aid. And there's been nearly 24 other people who've needed medical treatment as a result of this nerve agent being used. And what it basically shows, because you think about, what is the purpose of this? He's not someone who's actively working against the Russian government. He did do, and he's not anymore. But, and then, no one has come out and said this is definitely, the Russian state that has done this. But this is not something that another group could do, and there'd be no reason for anyone else to do it. And then, of course, Russia played their hand twice since then. First of all, on Russian state-sponsored television news show, there was a warning about people who might be thinking about turning traitor, potentially spying or passing on secrets against Russia to particularly the United Kingdom, saying that Britain's not a safe place for these people to be. So a little veiled warning there. And who can be in any doubt that this is yet another case, and it's not the first time where the British authorities have said that someone has been murdered as a result of Russian involvement, and specifically in a way that basically says that the Russian president, President Putin, must have known about it and probably even ordered, but certainly must have known about it. Now, this sort of thing doesn't happen in other countries. I mean, this is the thing I'm explaining. Of course, Russia is a very powerful nation. Russia has very much been flexing its international muscles under President Putin, who, let's not forget, was someone who is from that Soviet era and remembers the fall of the Berlin Wall. Not particularly happy memories. He had to deal with that fallout. He was in East Germany at the time. But yeah, they've definitely been flexing their international muscles after they went through a period of decline after the Soviet era. He's building it back up, bullying countries on the border there. But you can't imagine anything like this taking place in, say, France or Germany, the other so-called major powers in Europe. But it's happening in Britain because the bottom line is nothing happens. This has happened before, and the British government has basically done nothing. The most famous case was a fella who was poisoned with polonium, which, again, is one of these murders that not only, are you coming onto another country's soil and murdering someone, but in such a way that it poses a very real health risk to innocent citizens. So it's an attack also, not just in defiance of our authority on our own land, but of British citizens. So we're basically saying that we cannot even defend our own citizens within our own borders. So what could the Prime Minister do about it? Well, we can't really impose any financial hurt, any economic hurt on Russia. If we put any sanctions in place, political and economic sanctions are not going to do any good because that would hurt us as well. And also, we've put political sanctions in place over the annexation of Crimea and Ukraine. That hasn't done any good. So, there's nothing else much more we can do in that line either. We could cut off all diplomatic ties, but again, what good does that do anyone? We could try and make a coordinated EU response, and if we were, of course, still a fully committed member of the EU, we may get some traction there if Theresa May, the Prime Minister, actually pushed for it. But the problem is, of course, we're leaving the EU, so why would other EU nations, for no gain for themselves, piss off Russia just to help us out when we're planning on leaving them going it alone anyway? As a result, as Sir Vince Cable, I said earlier, said, of people mostly voting because, we think that we can make it on our own when we quite clearly can't. And this sort of episode just sort of demonstrates that. And it is quite sad. I mean, I've been someone who's grown up under no illusions at all that the United Kingdom's place in the world is not a strong one. And people are harking back to a time that doesn't exist anymore. And thank God for it. It was... Imperial days were an absolutely terrible period of time. It's a government basically bullying the peoples of another country. I mean, the big battle, I think, of the 21st century, if the 20th century is what knocked imperialism on the head, the 21st century should be stopping governments from bullying their own people, a bit close to home. That would be nice too. But, so Theresa, she's not going to get any help from EU states because, what's in it for them? We're burning bridges with them. That's not going to do any good either. There is nothing that can be done. And the problem is, as soon as she announced... The thing is, right now, the UK government are not pointing the finger yet at Russia. Okay, so that's why we can't say for certain it definitely is. We know that they know. We know that the security forces know. This is a huge operation. At some point, and this is why I say in the next week or two, they have to say what the conclusions are. They have to. At that point, we will have to say that this is state-sponsored assassination attempts on British soil, which not only has targeted the people it's targeted, who were Russian citizens, or one still is, of course, but British citizens, got nothing to do with Russia, have also been put at death's door, may still die, some of whom have also still been badly affected. And we're going to do nothing about it. The only thing we could do, that will still make no difference, but at least it will show that we're not accepting it. The only thing, as far as I can tell, not being an expert in international diplomacy, the only thing I think we could do is charge at least the head of the security forces in Russia, if not the president himself. The upshot of which will be, of course, he can't ever visit Britain again. We obviously can't go storming into Russia and arrest him. That'd be ridiculous. But, it would at least prevent him coming to Britain again. It would make a strong show of it. It would be an accusation. And to remove his, diplomatic immunity were he ever to want to come to the United Kingdom. It would at least show that we're not standing for it. That's the absolute best that can happen. But I don't believe that is what will happen. That won't happen. I think all that will happen, and bear in mind when the murder with the polonium was carried out a few years ago, it was Theresa May, the current Prime Minister, who was Home Secretary at the time. And basically it was just we made the statement, okay, we believe it was Russia. Nothing happened, no consequences at all came of it. And it was just allowed to sort of fade into memory. Of course, people haven't forgotten, and whenever this happens again, people will remember that as well. And we've just been shown to be weak. We've been shown to be weak. And yet we're still persisting with this farce that we can break away from the EU and our shared, values and might, and somehow go it alone. And it's, and as I say, I've grown up under no illusions that we're not a major power anymore. Absolutely not a major power. We are a convenient diplomatic bridge between, the United States and Europe. A bridge that's going to be significantly weakened by our actions in the next year or two. But something like this just brings it into focus just how weak we are and how badly we're going to do. And I just wonder at what point my own country is going to wake up and actually see where we are and what we are. Because everyone, of course, is proud of their country and should be. You know, everyone has, or most citizens have a healthy dose of patriotism that sometimes colours your views of your own country. But I just feel it's going to be thrown into stark relief, and it's going to set the country into a bit of a depression, really. A depression. But we'll just have to see. We'll wait to see in a couple of weeks what the Prime Minister does eventually say when she says it, or within the next couple of weeks. Of course, it could happen at any day because they now know exactly what has happened. Really, they'll know what has happened. There's massive numbers of police involved in this operation. We'll just have to wait and see what happens and what she says and what she does. But my money is on not a lot. A bit of a speech expressing outrage, and then hoping something else happens to keep the newspapers interested in another story and just allow to disappear until it happens again. But anyway, there you go. Thanks very much for listening. Until next time, I'll see you later.